Hey everybody, it's the Steesh from Tony and the Steesh's Bologna Burger podcast, powered by Performance Center Racing Warehouse, McAllister Precision Marketing, 9D Creative, GSX Wraps. Happy Wednesday night to everybody. Glad you guys would join us here. I got a really special guest on the line tonight, Mr. Jack McNelley with the Cars Tour. We're going to bring him on in a minute, but just wanted to just kind of give you guys a little heads up. Tony's not here tonight. He had a little car trouble, so you get to look at this beautiful smiling face here for the next hour or so. But don't want to waste any time. Want to go ahead and get Mr. Jack McNelley on the line here. And technology is not my friend. But Mr. Jack McNelley with the Cars Tour. It's the Steesh from the Bologna Burger podcast. How are you, sir?
I am fine, Steve. A beautiful day today. Getting ready for a big weekend at Florence Motor Speedway.
Well, I caught you on a week that is not typical for you, where you go back to back. Well, I say that. I mean, 2020 has been a little bit different, but you just got back from Bristol with the Supers, with a co-sanctioned event, and now we go back to Florence Motor Speedway, which obviously wasn't on the docket when we came out with this schedule last year, but with COVID-19 and some changing and moving around, you're down at Florence Motor Speedway this weekend instead of South Boston. Talk a little bit about how that all happened. Obviously, I know that you've got a great relationship with Steve Zacharias down there at Florence, but can you talk and tell our folks a little bit on how that all transpired?
Well, as most of the folks know, South Boston has not operated all year. And in speaking with Kathy Rice there, she did not see any way possible for us to have our event. And as much as she hated that, we looked south because South Carolina is a little bit more relaxed, if you will, than North Carolina.
Right.
And you're right. We'd had a relationship with Steve Zacharias from Myrtle Beach. Fine young man, good hard worker, and he's trying to make his mark here. And he went out on a limb, he and his wife and another partner, and bought Florence Motor Speedway. And I reached out to him, and he thought it was a great idea. And I went down a couple, 3 weeks ago because I had never been to Florence Speedway in my life. And I wanted to check it out, and they've made a lot of improvements, as I understand. Again, I was never there, but it looks nice. It's got painted up. It's got some aluminum bleachers down. Track surface is great, which is a real plus for us. Mm-hmm. And lots of pit area, so the fellows can park and pit on blacktop, and lots of good parking for fans and camping sites.
Well, let me ask you this, and it's kind of I think it's a funny question, but I think it's a legit question. Will this be the first cars event at a racetrack that doesn't have a retaining wall in the corners?
It is. As far as it is. And I was concerned about that a little bit, but again, going down there and seeing, I mean, first of all, it's got progressive banking to it.
Right.
Not a lot of banking, but it is progressive. The higher you get, the steeper it gets.
Right.
So that has a tendency to hold you in to begin with. And even if you do get up and out a little bit, there's runoff area there. You're not going to go up and hit an oak tree or anything like that.
Right.
I think the guys will be just fine, to be honest with you. And quite frankly, even if you do get up there, it beats hitting a concrete wall for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked with a handful of guys here in the last week or so. A lot of guys that have never seen the place, and some guys. I know Bobby McCarty. He went down in practice last week. It's the first time he'd seen the place, and I know that Justin Johnson's going down there, and Lee Falk's going down there to test tomorrow. As far as the relationship, I mean, obviously it's a new track for folks that follow the Cars Tour. Is the track easily accessible off of 95 there in Florence?
Yes. Well, it's off 95. It's actually in just outside the little tiny village of Timmonsville.
Okay.
And if that sounds familiar to racing fans listening, Timmonsville is the home of Cale Yarborough, and Cale still lives in that little community. But it's in Timmonsville. If you would come off 95, I'm trying to think of the route numbers. It's actually a little bit south of the city of Florence on 95.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Well, I know it's exciting. We've seen the pre-entry list. I think if I read it correctly, you've got 12 supers, 20 late models, I think. And look, I think you guys, regardless if you've got 12 or 20 supers, I think you always have done a good job, especially this year, at getting some of the best super guys. So I know those guys will definitely put on a good show. But I want to talk more, and like I think you mentioned in your interview with Doc, that Trevor Knowles, who won at Bristol this past week and was able to close the gap on Matt Craig. But I want to talk a little bit more about the late model and kind of how you feel about where we're at thus far. 8 races, 7 different winners, a heated points battle that'll most likely for sure go down to the last race of the year. Kind of give us a report card on where you feel like the car's towards out on the late model side here with 2 races to go.
Well, as you alluded to, once again we have a real points battle. I think there's 4 or 5 that could conceivably, get hot. Maybe somebody have a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 guys that very much in this thing.
Yeah.
And you can't ask for much more than that. I mean, last year when we had that deal with Bobby McCarty and Josh Berry, I mean, that was epic right there.
Yeah.
And I think we have a strong possibility of coming down to a very similar situation when we go to Greenville Pickens for the big race there at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that as well, obviously. And I think there's a lot of things that play into that. Is in regards, I've actually talked to Lane and Jared both about that as far as being 1 and 2 in the points. And obviously Corey Hines is involved. He's still there. Bobby McCarty still has a chance to win his 3rd championship. But it's a little bit different because now we're that $30,000 race, which was originally scheduled for April, which is earlier in the year. Now it's all rolled up into one big weekend. And I mean, you talk about stressful for those guys. I can't imagine the amount of pressure that those guys will put on themselves and their crews will put on them, especially if they've got an opportunity to win not just a championship and a cars championship, but $30,000 to boot.
Well, like you said, it's all rolled into one. We didn't really plan on it being that way, but it's kind of the way it's shaking out.
Right.
I'm just very satisfied that we're able to get the entire season in.
Yep.
All the events that we advertised.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are one of the very few series that's been able to do that.
Right.
And it's just because of promoters that we work with, track owners, racers, sponsors, everybody, just doing what we had to do to get it in. And without those people that I just mentioned, we wouldn't be able to do it for sure.
Well, that leads me to my next question. And I know that you and I have had this conversation off the record, off the cuff on a couple of different weekends, but let people, share with our viewers and our listeners just the grind and the challenges that you and your team have faced in 2020, as far as, obviously, we all go to Southern National. We have I think, 2 really good races to start the season. Everything's kind of, par for the course, so to speak. And then the following Wednesday, it's like the world shut down and went into a lockdown for a couple of months. I commend you and your team. I think you guys have done an absolutely phenomenal job kind of weathering the storm, and like you said, getting every event that you guys had on the calendar ran to this point. Obviously, we've had to shuffle some things around and move around, but talk about some of those challenges behind the scenes that the average race fan might not know, that, Jack McNelley and Keely and Chris and Danny and Jacqueline all have had to go through here in the last few months.
Well, I guess a lot of it, Stephen, was the unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, when we shut down right after Southern National, if someone would have told me at that point that we would still be dealing with this in October, I mean, if they'd have bet me, I'd have lost a lot of money. I just did not think that this thing would last like it has.
Right.
So the unknown for the first 6 weeks, is this thing, are we ever going to be able to go back racing?
Mm-hmm.
And it just got to the point where a lot of people asked why we went to Hickory with no fans. Believe me, I was the last one in the world that wanted to do that for obvious reasons.
Right.
But I just thought we had to do something. I have, the Lee Pulliams. I've got Lee Falk. I've got Barry Nelson. I've got teams and groups of people that depend financially. It's their business.
Mm-hmm.
And if we did, and they had committed to the Cars Tour, those people.
Right.
And I felt my commitment to them, we had to get things rolling, or they were going to be in a very tough financial position.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that if we didn't start and get things rolling, we probably wouldn't have any race cars next year, because these people probably would be out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, it was difficult. It was very difficult. But again, I have some great sponsors that if they didn't do what they do and continue to support this series through thick and thin, and believe me, we've had some thin, but these people have stepped up, they have helped me out, and we've been able to weather the storm. And hopefully, when we close this thing out in Greenville Pickens, we're ready to go in March 2021, full bore ahead.
Speaking of sponsors, obviously one of the focal points, not just for the Cars Tour, but for short track racing and racing here in the Southeast as a whole, Kirk Ipock, Solid Rock Carriers. Talk a little bit about how instrumental he's been, because I know that, obviously being the title sponsor of the Cars Tour, I know that his input's extremely valuable, but also his support and getting guys to the racetrack. I mean, I know you and I have had the conversation that, not only does Kurt do a lot for the Cars Tour as a whole, but he does a lot for the drivers in the Cars Tour. And talk a little bit about what he means to you as a sponsor and as a friend.
Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. I don't know of any individual, short track racing, NASCAR, anything. I don't know of anybody that supports his. I mean, he is dedicated to this thing like nobody I've ever met in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right. He helps teams. He helps drivers. He helps us. And my relationship with him began last year, and it was just a at-track thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to me at the end of the year, toward the end of the year, and told me what he'd like to do. And when I told him, and I think we said this at the banquet, I said, Kirk, I'm going to tell you something. I will accept your help, but I am not going to accept your help if it's going to take away from my teams.
Mm-hmm.
And he assured me at that point it would not. And he has been a man of his word for the teams and to me.
Yep.
I just can't thank the man enough, and I hope that our teams and our drivers and everybody, I hope they know what a diamond in the rough we have right here with us.
Absolutely, and a quick story for Kurt and how we met. I mean, I've always known of Kurt in Solid Rock Carries, and the first car I actually remember him being on was Tate Fogelman's Super Late model, and he actually came up to me the first race of the year at Southern National. Last year, 2019, and he introduced himself to me, and he told me that he loved my podcast. And I actually joked with him. I said, "Man," I didn't think that people actually listen to that thing, but we had, and that's right. Right when we had started, and so he's been a great supporter of what we do here and try to support short track racing, and we have a great relationship, and we always make it a point, as you were witness to and came on the show a couple weeks ago. We actually do a podcast live from Moonshiners at Carteret because that's something that he wanted us to do, and as much as that man does for our sport, that's the least I can do is pack up my stuff and come down to Carteret a day early to do a podcast for him. So, but yeah, he's done some amazing things for a lot of people in this sport, and honestly, he gets a lot of people to the racetrack that normally or typically wouldn't, especially in the times that we are now. So I definitely agree with you 100% on that. Speaking of, as I know we alluded to this, you guys announced it last week, that the Old North State Nationals has been moved to Greenville-Pickens, originally slated for April at Orange County Speedway. And you guys have, based on what I've read and what you talked about in your interview with Doc Love on Race 22 earlier this week, man, it sounds like it's going to be an absolute just party down there the third weekend in October.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it for sure. And there again, we didn't have much choice. I mean, with the governor, I mean, even the governor's announcement today, where 7%. Well, even at Orange County, that may seat 10,000. I'm really not sure, but if it does, that would give us 700 people. Well, we can't put on a show like we have with 700 people. I mean, the numbers just don't work out. Mm-hmm. So yes, we looked elsewhere. We have not been to Greenville-Pickens for 3 years now. Yep. Anthony Anders down there, the promoter, owner, I believe. I'm not sure, but anyway, he has just been wonderful to work with. I got to toot his horn here a little bit. He is the one that's putting up the Busy Beaver Timber. Okay. Yeah. That is Anthony Anders. That is the promoter of the Speedway there. Yep. He's the one that's putting up $6,000 to pay to the leader of lap 50, lap 100, and lap 150. Mm-hmm. So a guy that would go out and dominate, if you will, for 200 laps, lead those laps plus win, he's going to go home with in excess of $36,000. Yeah. Yeah. That's not too shabby.
I tell you could see some really hard racing on lap 50 between first and second, though, right?
Yes. So, yes. As long as they do it like gentlemen, that's fine. They can bump and grind, but they got to behave themselves. Yep. Well, let me ask you this. I know most people that follow the tour kind of understand this, but obviously you've got GSX Wraps qualifying night, which is a little bit different than your normal show, where you'll have qualifying. Everybody will have single car qualifying, top 5 lock-in, if I'm not mistaken, and then you're going to run 3 heat races in the last chance race to lock in the top 26, or that would be 6 through 26, and then obviously 2 provisionals. As far as the race and how the race will be run, I know last year was a 6-tire race. Is that format still the same, Jack, as it was at Orange County last year? Yes, it's still 6 tires. Okay. They will be able to make pit stops, control cautions. Nothing live here. We're not going to go that road. Right. But the caveat there is, if they make a pit stop, they can only change tires or gas. They cannot do both on the same caution.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
So just for instance, let's say they come in at lap 75 and change tires, then they got to wait for the next caution before they fuel, or vice versa.
Right. Okay.
So it puts a little bit of strategy into it.
I just realized that 200 lap race, you're probably going to have gas. You're probably not going to get to the end. So that's actually so what you're essentially doing is you're making it a 2 pit stop race for these guys, and that's where your strategy is going to come into play.
That's where the strategy comes in, and I think you're going to find that there's probably going to be more than 2 pit stops, because what I see some of the guys doing is, and again, this is strategy, they're allowed to take, let's say a caution comes out on lap 40. They can take those tires off, 2 tires, and put 2 new ones on, run the biggest part of the race, and save those 40 lap tires and put them back on for the last 25, 30 laps. They'll be pretty good then.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it instead of just watching the cars go around, it's going to require some mental thinking on the part of the team and the crew chief in particular.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I picked up on, I've actually never been to Greenville Pickens. Actually, at Orange County this past week, and I actually talked with Scott Riggs a little bit and asked him. I was pretty sure he had been there, and he said it had been a long time, but what you said was kind of interesting to me, and I talked to Tanya McAllister a little bit too, because I know she's from that area, not too far from Greenville and Columbia. But I think this is probably one of the more unique racetracks as far as how to watch a race, because you guys were talking about how they have like tiered levels that you can basically have drive up parking right to the. Can you explain that a little bit more?
They do. On beginning in turn 3 on the back straightaway now, beginning in turn 3, all the way around to the point of in between 1 and 2, they have tiered parking, 3 tiers, like a drive-in movie theater.
Yep.
Okay, for us old people, we know what that is. But they have 3 tiers of parking, and people can come in there and park. They can sit in their car if it's hot with the air conditioner on. They can get out. They can grill. In other words, it's almost like tailgating, and they can tailgate there inside the racetrack.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm told, I have never counted, but I am told that they can park about 400 cars there.
Okay, so if you have 400 cars, 400 cars, 4 people a car, that's 1,200 just on the backstretch in cars. I mean, I don't know how much the grandstand holds, but I think too, something that you mentioned is, I know a lot of people were. Obviously, Orange County is a very central location for a lot of late model stock car teams, per se. But I think, honestly, moving it to Greenville, you're not too terribly far from that Charlotte-Morrisville area where you've got a bunch of teams. It's obviously a little bit longer haul for, some of the folks that are up here in the Raleigh-Durham area, the Virginia area, but I feel like you've got a really good opportunity to nab up a bunch of those South Carolina guys that may have been running Myrtle Beach and Florence and Greenville Pickens. Anderson comes to mind as well. I think you might have an opportunity to grab a bunch of those guys and get that field up to, probably, I would think you probably are looking 40 to 50 cars would be my guess.
I would hope so, think so. As we speak, we have 24 entries.
Okay.
And I would say, I didn't get an exact count, but I believe there's 6 or 7 entries of those 24 of fellows that have never run with us from South Carolina.
Okay.
So yes, you're absolutely right there.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, they had a drawing today. I do not know. Greenville Pickens Speedway had a live Facebook drawing today, and he's going to do it every Wednesday. We're going to provide him with an updated entry list every Wednesday.
Yep.
And he's going to have a drawing, and anybody that's entered at that particular time has the ability to win 2 free tires.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, I don't know who won it today. I was busy in the office, but
yeah,
the drawing was supposed to happen at Greenville, Texas anyway.
Okay. Very good.
And,
well,
I might add on that GXS wrap night, incidentally, that we got an added bonus in that after the racing activity, we also have contracted a local country western band there in the Greenville area called Tyler Hatley Band.
Yep.
And they have a stage right off of turn 1 at Greenville Pickens.
Yep.
So as part of your admission, if you will, we're going to have this Tyler Hatley Band do about an hour's concert.
Very cool.
And there's going to be adult beverages and other beverages there as well. So it's going to be a big time Saturday night for sure.
So basically what you're telling me is that if you don't know who Ronald Hill is, you need to learn who Ronald Hill is so that you can camp with him at Greenville Pickens that Saturday night with a concert and adult beverages and
I can promise you one thing. By the time Saturday night's over, you will know who Ronald Hill
is. Speaking of Ronald, he is on his quote-unquote retirement tour with the Cars Tour. And Ronald has been, I did some research. We were going through some stuff a few weeks ago, and Ronald has the second most starts of any driver since the Cars Tour's inception. Talk a little bit about what Ronald Hill has meant to the sport, to the Cars Tour. I mean, he's not the guy that's won race after race after race, and he's never won the championship, but he has been a staple with you guys from day one.
Well, as you said, he has the second longest run with us. And, through thick and thin, and he's had his bad luck, if you will, and tore up some equipment, but he has never missed a race. He always gets it back together.
Yep.
He must work till about 3 o'clock in the morning. But he's always there, and Ronald is always the same. Win, lose, or draw, you get the same Ronald Hill.
That's right.
And I just wish that some of the drivers could develop that mental attitude toward racing.
Yeah.
It's not a life and death situation.
Yeah.
If you run good, great. If you run bad, it's still okay.
Yeah.
That's the enjoyment that I get out of Ronald Hill and his crew.
Yeah.
They're just down to earth, salt of the earth people.
Yeah.
And they're just a joy to be around. And I really, really hate to think he's drawing the curtain on us at the end of this year. I really do.
Well, and I don't think he's not going to retire. I don't think he's going to get out of that car altogether. I mean, I think that there's obviously some races that he's going to want to run next year with you guys, and that leads me. I've got a question from our Facebook Live feed that basically we were talking about the $30,000 race, and the question comes in can we look forward to having the $30,000 Old North State National back at Orange County in 2021?
That is our plan.
Okay.
We're in talks with Orange County right now.
Yep.
We are working on the schedule, and I know that's what you want to talk about a little bit. But that is our plan, that we are bringing it back to Orange County. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, talking about, I'll ask you about the schedule. And again, I don't expect you to to break any news to me tonight. I'm more than willing to be patient and wait like everybody else. But obviously, 2021, like you said in March, has it been difficult trying to put together a 2021 schedule with the current situation that we're in right now, with some uncertainty and people not knowing if we'll be back to 100% in March of 2021?
Well, yes. I mean, probably more so in our own minds than anybody else.
Right.
I mean, I would hate to think that we're going to still be faced with this in March, April, and May. But like I said earlier, I would have lost a lot of money if someone would bet me we're dealing with it today.
Yeah.
But we got to press on. We got to make plans. And, if we get slapped in the face again, then I guess we're back to doing what we did this year.
Yeah.
But we are absolutely working with promoters and talking about dates. And, yes, we are absolutely working on the schedule.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, and like I said, I don't expect you to spill the beans, and I don't know what's official and what's not, but obviously the 2019 schedule and the 2020 schedule are essentially identical. Same racetracks, basically kind of the same dates as far as the starting at Southern National, ending at South Boston. Are there things that people may or may not be surprised with when they see a 2021 schedule come out?
I think they will be. Yes.
Yeah.
21 schedule is going to be different.
Yep.
I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb and say they're probably, looking at maybe 3, possibly 4 different venues that we will be scheduling.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Now, are those venues that were are those potentially venues that were rescheduled because of this year that you may have run at this year, and maybe you go back next year?
You're getting me in a corner there, Steve.
All right, I won't ask. I'll
answer your question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
We a lot of. Let me be clear on one thing.
Yeah.
We got forced into a situation this year because of the COVID-19, and we made changes and everything. But we were able to go and do things that we would not normally have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? They didn't work out that bad.
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of opened our eyes too, that maybe we can expand our footprint a little bit. Maybe we can do something a little bit different. We don't have to do the same thing year in, year out.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, Jack, I think too. I mean, I know, obviously you guys have any affiliation with NASCAR, but as far as the Cup level and the Xfinity level, with obviously everything that's happened, people are like, oh, well, we can't go to a racetrack if we don't have 2 days to practice and qualify, and we spend all this money. And they've been able to put these shows into one-day shows with no practice, no qualifying. And I'll be honest with you, I think I've seen some of the best racing. So, like you said, you guys have had to do some things that you have normally not done because it wasn't what you've done in the past. And they've actually and they've worked, and they've turned out okay. And I think I think that I thought the race at Franklin County, which was basically moving an Orange County race to Franklin County, I think the racing there was absolutely phenomenal. With the battle with Jared Fryer and Mike Looney, it was awesome. I think that I thought that was a great addition. I think that Greenville Pickens is a racetrack that you guys ran out in the early days, but it's got that track has so much character and just oozes history with the folks in the races and the events that have been there. So like I said, I think you've made the best out of what you had to work with for sure.
Well, thank you for that. But you're right. I mean, we were able to go to some different places, make new friends, maybe, not maybe, but make new fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are a touring series. You know, we need to go. I mean, that's what a touring series is. You need to go to different racetracks and let these teams and drivers adapt to the different scenarios.
Absolutely.
You don't want to go, I mean, we don't go to the same track week in and week out like a Saturday night short track.
Right.
At the same racetrack.
Yeah.
So, that's one of the things the touring series does.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, and like I said, not to pry too much, but there's been a couple of racetracks that have obviously been staples for you guys. Those racetracks being Hickory Motor Speedway and Orange County Speedway. If I'm not mistaken, I think both of those racetracks have traditionally had 2 dates a year with you guys. Is that something that could be shuffled in this 2021 schedule, or is that something that has worked well for you guys? I know that you and I have had the conversation and the talk that you guys love coming to Orange County because you have some of your biggest crowds and your biggest supporters up this way, and then obviously Hickory's kind of a home game for you guys. So is that something that the schedule is going to reflect, or is that something that may change as well?
No, I'm pretty sure you're going to see Hickory and Orange County on there.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about a little bit is the Tour in 12, the Lucas Oil Tour in 12, which is a program that you've got for your late models. That is such a great program from my standpoint as a supporter of short track racers and the series as a whole. And my pocketbooks have benefited from it. Having Craig Moore as a Tour in 12 driver for a couple years, so it actually helped us a little bit. But talk a little bit about that program and the importance of that program, and when you and Chris Regal put that thing together 3 years ago.
Well, it benefits both sides as any program should.
You there? You may have lost Jack. You there, Jack?
Hello.
Hey, you there? I lost you there for a second.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hold on one second. Let me see if I can get you back on here. All right, you got me? I guess I'm going to put a speakerphone. All right, I'm going to put you on speaker here. So go ahead, Jack, because it cut out right there when you started talking about what the Tour in 12 was.
Well, can you hear me now?
I can, yep.
Okay. As far as a benefit to the series, when we go to these tracks or try to sell these shows, do whatever, we know we've got 12 people that are going to be there.
Right.
So it gives us a new
Yeah, and I think that's another thing too, Jack, that's super important is to talk about that and talk a little bit about that too. The fact that it's more towards teams. It's not real. I mean, obviously you want it to be driver centric, but you guys have put together basically a program for your teams to be able to do that, and what comes to mind for me, couple of instances this year. Obviously, Josh Berry. Josh Berry, after the race at Ace, decided after the one race suspension that you gave him that he was going to go ahead and try to run for a NASCAR national championship. So Connor Mosack was able to take that up, and then obviously Deke McCaskill, who was a Touring 12 driver. He had some things that didn't work out in his favor, and Justin Johnson's taken over that Touring 12 spot for him. So I know a couple of years ago it didn't quite work that way. So talk a little bit about how you kind of dialed that back in to where it actually is beneficial to you and to the teams.
Well, you're right. A couple of years ago, it was not like that. So what we did, and it seems to be working quite well. We'll just use let's use Deke and Justin for an example.
Mm-hmm.
Deke found that this year he just couldn't. He'd already signed his agreement, but part of that agreement was that if they could not continue,
yep,
they needed to find a replacement. They needed to find it, not us.
Right.
To remain in the program, but only one time. In other words, he went out and found Justin Johnson, who agreed to run the 08 and that sort of thing. If Justin would have got in trouble, he couldn't pass it on to somebody else. It had to be either Deke or
right,
Justin.
Right.
And if they could not do it, that whole deal, they were out of the program and never to return.
Okay, I didn't realize that was a stipulation that they couldn't return.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's new, but
no, it's not new.
Okay.
Case in point, you mentioned Josh. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Josh turned it over to Connor Mosack.
Yep.
Now I understand that Josh is going to run Greenville Pickens, but he is going to run the 8. He is going to leave Connor in the 88.
Okay.
So Connor will get the benefit of the Touring 12. Okay. Josh could have come back and had every right to come back
yep,
and run the 88, but he elected not to do it.
Right. Yep. I guess Josh he'll have his national championship sewed up before Greenville Pickens would be my guess.
Well, I think he's almost got it done now, doesn't he?
I think he does. I think if I'm not mistaken, he actually went up to Dominion and raced head-to-head against Peyton Sellers this weekend and beat him twice. So I think it's pretty much a done deal. I think it's more or less just a formality at this point. But, talk a little bit about, obviously talking about Josh Berry. And Josh is obviously a Cars Tour champion, previous Cars Tour champion, all-time winningest driver in the Cars Tour. You made a call at Ace in the second race of the season, and just between you, me, and the folks listening, I think that you absolutely made the right call. And I think I saw that thing coming from about 2 laps before it happened, and it's just a bad deal all of it round. But obviously, you made the right call in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion. But any ill feelings or ill will towards him deciding not to continue running in the Cars Tour? Obviously, he gave the reasoning that he basically had kind of eliminated himself from a championship, and I mean, obviously that was his ultimate goal. But any ill feelings towards for you as a series, because he's been very loyal to y'all series for the last 5 years?
Oh gosh, no. Josh and I are friends, and we remain friends.
Yeah.
No, as a matter of fact, and I don't share this with everybody, but I mean, Josh called me. I don't know, maybe the Tuesday after or something like that,
Yeah.
and said, look, he said, no hard feelings. We've had a meeting here, and we have decided, since I probably can't win the championship, we've decided I have never won a national championship, never ran for a national championship. He said, I think this is the year that we should try to do that. He said, Hickory is remaining open even without fans.
Yeah.
He said, I can rack up points there at Hickory.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to hear it from me that it's not sour grapes or anything like that.
Yeah.
He said, that's just the decision we made.
Yeah.
So how do you hold anything against somebody like that?
No, like I said, I didn't expect there to be any ill feelings, but I know that there was a little bit of, I don't want to say questioning, but and look, I think at the end of the day, Junior Motorsports obviously has been an instrumental part of the Cars Tour success from a team standpoint. Obviously, those guys, and as you mentioned earlier, Lee Pulliam Performance, Nelson Motorsports, Lee Falk Racing. Crosley was there for a couple years. I mean, like you said, that's their livelihood, and I think it speaks volumes of the Cars Tour and what you guys have put together, that those groups want to be part of what you're doing. So I think that Tour and 12 deal really helps them out as well. But I think, like I said, man, I can't thank you enough for what you do for short track racing. You've and especially here in 2020. I know it's not been easy. It's probably been the most difficult season thus far for you guys, Cars Tour wise. But I think you guys have a lot of things that you guys can hang your hat on, as far as things that you did well, things that have gone well in a really uncertain time, and I'm excited to see what 2021 looks like. I don't want to close the book on 2020 yet, because I think we've got a hell of a battle for a championship. We've got two racetracks that a lot of these guys have never been to, so I think there's a lot of action to be had here in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not been easy, but in a way, it's been kind of satisfying too.
Yeah.
We've gone different places, had great events, met new people, worked with new promoters. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad. And as I said, this is not a life and death situation. It's first of all, it's a sport. Yes, it's a very serious sport. But what sport isn't? I don't care if it's golf, tennis, or badminton.
Right.
Everybody takes it very serious.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me a little bit. People say, well, it's a very emotional sport. What sport isn't emotional?
Oh, I think
if you're in it like you're supposed to be in it, anything's emotional.
I mean, I think we witnessed probably one of the most emotional cars races a couple of weeks ago at Carteret. Obviously some for the wrong reason, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think you look at these guys and girls that have been part of your series, and I mean, they put a ton of effort and a ton of energy, because we had this conversation a couple of years ago. Anybody can go win. Anybody can, go out to a local short track and win a race on a Saturday night, on any given Saturday night. But it really, it's like a notch on the belt, so to speak, when you can say that you've won a cars race. And we haven't done. I mean, like I said, you've been established for, I think this is year 6, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously you've got the Josh Berrys and the Bobby McCartys and Deke McCaskills, and now Lane Riggs is starting to climb that ladder as far as multiple winners. But you look at it, Jack, and I think you might have 20 to 25 late model drivers that can actually say they've won a cars race in the 6 years you guys have been around, and that's something to be proud of.
Well, it is, and I think our competitors realize it, and I'm pretty sure the large majority of our fans realize it too. Mm-hmm. You go out and you win a cars race, You're absolutely right that it's big. Look, watch, ARCA, trucks, Xfinity, even now.
Yeah.
Look at the Cars alumni that's up in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you had great. Hey, I made the joke. I mean, you've got Gracie Trotter who ran the Cars Tour. She ran the super late model side a couple of years ago. She just made history, the first female to win an ARCA West race this past weekend. You've got Sam Mayer doing great things. Obviously, William Byron, who won his first Cup race at Daytona. I mean, you've got some,
Zane Smith.
The Gray Kid. I mean,
Yep.
You've got to, and look, it's we always used to make the back in, I'll tell my age a little bit, but back in the day, like you went from, if you were really good in late model, and late model was kind of the rule of the roost here in North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina. If you could really wheel late model, then your next step was into a Busch car. And I remember Elliott Sadler, running at Orange County, running at South Boston, and finally got the opportunity. He did some great things. Timothy Peters, who coincidentally is actually going to be in the field this weekend at Florence, but Timothy was one of those guys that started in Legends and worked his way through late models and got the opportunity. But I think the Cars Tour, even though it's not NASCAR affiliated, I think it is looked at as one of those proving grounds. And I think that just speaks volumes of what you and Chris Regal have done over the last several years to kind of boost that up and bring the best competition to the racetrack week in, week out.
Well, that's our platform. That's why we exist.
Yeah.
Is to not only give those people that's climbing that ladder, trying to get to the next level, but also provide a racing opportunity at an affordable level for those people that aren't going any further.
Yeah.
Stacy Purrier,
yep.
Deke, these people, this is where they're going to be. And it's our job to give them the best racing experience that they can have.
Well, Jack, I appreciate your time tonight, and like I said, I've spoken so highly of what you guys have done. I'm extremely honored to be a small part of what you guys do as a sponsor here in 2020 with GSX Wraps, and you guys do so much, not just for your racers, not just for your fans, but you guys are very loyal to your sponsors and supporters. And from a sponsor standpoint, I can't thank you guys enough for week in, week out putting on just absolutely amazing shows, races that people will talk about for years to come. Look forward to another one at Florence this weekend, and then obviously 3 weeks after that, we'll be down at Greenville Pickens for the season finale. So, Jack, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday down in Florence.
Well, I look forward to seeing you and Steven and all of our other sponsors. I can't thank you enough, because if you guys weren't on board with us, we could not put out the programs. I mean, we just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So to you and all the people that's on the side of that race car, thank you.
Sounds good. Jack, have a good rest of the week. Safe travels to Florence, and we'll see you on Saturday, sir.
All right. Thanks, Steven.
Thanks, Jack. Jack McNelley, the owner of the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, in action again this weekend at Florence Motor Speedway. Late models and super late models, 125 laps a piece. Aaron's 250. You guys can watch it on Cars Tour TV if you can't make it to Florence. As we mentioned earlier, right off of 95 from the Raleigh-Durham area where we're located. It's about a 2 hour and 45-minute drive, so you could make a long day trip out of it if you wanted to. But yeah, we look forward to that. And again, thank you guys for jumping on Bologna Burger Podcast, powered by Performance Center Racing Warehouse, McAllister Precision Marketing, 9D Creative, GSX Wraps. Until next Wednesday, you guys be good.